Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night, and we are coming to you live from inside of Bat City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida, to wind down your weekend. As always, I'm your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to get you excited about a bunch of indie and small press titles that you're going to want to absolutely rush out to your local comic shop and add to your pool list immediately. But of course, if we're winding down our weekend, before we can jump into comics, we've got to talk about wine. And we are celebrating my favorite holiday of the year and my favorite time of the year. It's Halloween. We are less than a week from Halloween right now. Woo! Shh. I don't have the sound effects anymore. But we are so excited. It's so close to Halloween, and we have been celebrating a lot here at Betsy. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But tonight we're celebrating by drinking the 19 Crimes Bride of Frankenstein wine. We've had this before. We've had this, I believe, on the show before to celebrate Halloween, but it's our favorite way to celebrate, and these bottles glow in the dark, and I love collecting them. So we're going to take a drink and see how this year's bottle came out, and see if we love it just as much as, well, we do.
What does it smell like?
It smells like wine. It's not it's a red blend, so it always just kind of smells like red fruits, yeah. Red fruits and our liquor cabinet. It tastes, and honestly, I think it actually has a more subtle level of flavors than it did the previous bottle round thing. Year? What year is this bottle? Does it say? Nope, it doesn't. It's just the Bride of Frankenstein. Who knows how long.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And this, I like that they do, one of the things that 19 Crimes does with their wines, is they actually put not only like what's in it, and it says it's rich and round with soft, fruity flavors, sweet aromas with notes of chocolate, but it also tells you like how light to dark it is, which is kind of a cool thing for people who are looking to buy a wine that don't necessarily know about it. Like, oh, is this going to be a thicker wine or is this going to be a lighter wine? That's kind of a cool note. It also has a QR code, but that's going to be something that goes with, like it says, like, I'm alive. So I think it's going to be a Bride of Frankenstein thing. I don't know. I can't check it on the thing, but we'll see later maybe. Yes, it's like, I'm alive, scan to watch. I don't know what kind of Bride of Frankenstein fun's going to be in there, but I'm excited to check it out. Yeah, that's literally what it says. It says on the bottom, scan the QR code above to bring the Bride of Frankenstein to life, which is really cool. But I love that those are officially licensed, like Universal Monsters, super cool bottle covers, and a lot of fun. And since I said we've been celebrating Halloween, we're going to continue to celebrate with the Bride of Frankenstein throughout the stream. But just a recap of all the fun for Halloween we've had so far this week at Bat City. On Friday, we had our Gothic Night Market and Book Fair, which was absolutely so much fun. Thank you to everybody who came out for that. It's the first time that we've had a big night market. We've had a couple vendors at night during our Christmas holiday stroll with our neighborhood, but that was the first time we've had a full night market, and it was so much fun. We had 12 vendors. We had tarot reads. We had a ton of like cool artists, and just a shout out to all of them. There was so much cool art, so many cool things that you could buy from our oddities vendors. We had an absolute blast with each of them, and so thank you so much to every single one that came. And I say 12 vendors, but in reality, each table had 2 vendors at it, so we actually had way more. I'm like, if I actually counted it out, we had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, what are you saying, 18 total? Yeah, 18 vendors and artists total. So that was incredible. So again, shout out to all of them. Thank you so much to everybody who came for that. And look forward to more things like that, because that was a lot of fun. And then outside of that, we also had our annual Batastic Halloween kids and community event, which was really fun. We celebrate that with our friends in Old Manatee, and we have trick-or-treating around the neighborhood. And so just shout out to Vintage Vine, Riverside Barbershop, Loving Hands, Vernona Gourmet, Kinspoke, Ascura, Central Cafe and 29 Palms for joining us for that trick-or-treating event. It was so much fun. It was great to see so many families come out. And then to our vendors and artists who came out for that one as well. We had so much fun. And a shout out to all of our volunteers like Ash and Mike, who helped make wands with kids all day, which was a lot of fun to see people making their own magic wands for the day. And for everybody coming out in their costumes. It was so much fun. And we had so many cool horror books for all ages, so many cool gothic stories and things like that, in prose, in picture book, in graphic novel form. It was just a lot of fun to just celebrate our favorite spooky time of year. And we're going to continue to do that today. Today's picks of the week are all going to be spooky favorites that came out this week, because there's so many great horror or Halloween related books this week. And so we decided all of our picks are just going to be things from this week that can help you get into the season. But we're going to talk about all the books that dropped. Before we do that, don't forget this week is Queer Book Club. We're going to keep spooky season going with When I Arrived at the Castle. I had a couple of people ask me, no, we are out of the book. Some people were like, do you still have any more after this weekend? We have sold through it. So come anyway, though, and just get to talk about the book with people because it's such a fun book, and we'll definitely get more in stock for people who want to read it post book club. That is at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. Thursday is creator meetup. So all of you creators who are working on projects, whether you're a writer, an artist, or working on something completely unrelated. We've had puppeteers come and talk about the stuff that they're working on, and just workshop that with other creators. It's a lot of fun. And then most importantly to know, this week we are closed on Halloween. We close every year on Halloween to celebrate the day, so don't come this Friday. We won't be here. Go out, celebrate, enjoy the fun time for the holiday. And if you want to do that with books, again, we're going to talk about a lot of them at the end today. That made our picks of the week that were cool, fun, spooky books from last week. But we're going to kick it off with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures issue 30 from IDW. If you are a fan of the Ninja Turtles cartoon, this is the book for you. Every issue is a different episodic kind of moment from the show featuring your favorite Ninja Turtles. In this issue, we're starting on a new quest as a mutagen man. Oh my gosh. Thinks he's healed from times in the show and is on a date with somebody when suddenly he starts mutating and he starts panicking. And not only is he mutating himself, but every time he touches somebody in the room, they mutate too, which is the first time that's actually happened with his powers. And so he's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. The turtles go out to try to save him because, of course, Donatello is like, it's our responsibility to help him. Dr. MacGuffin leads them on their path, which is, of course, the hilarious thing about the Ninja Turtles is they always have the literary jokes and humor that goes into things. And then, of course, Shredder follows them and is able to find mutagen man. I cannot say that when talking fast. He's able to find him and is determined to steal him so that he can use the power so that he no longer has to try to chemically change people to be recruits, but can actually just instantly change them. And this leaves us on a big cliffhanger to see what is going to happen as the series goes on. One thing I will say, if you're also picking up Saturday Morning TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures, is the art in these is done by Sarah Meyer. And if you are looking for a fun way to spend your end of your January, you should join us on ComCon The Cruise, which goes January 30th through February 3rd. And one of the artists on the cruise is actually the artist of the Sarah Meyer. And so you can go to ComConTheCruise.com and find out about tickets and information. So you can join Bat City at the comic vendor. We'll have these so you can get Sarah to sign them. Speaking of Ninja Turtles, we have TMNT, the actual ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, issue 12 from IDW. This is the last issue of Jason Aaron's run on Ninja Turtles. It will be switching over to the new writer, which is Gene Luen Yang. I'm very excited to have Gene taking over. It's going to be so cool. But this is wrapping up where we've been in this story, which, if you don't know, at the end of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 150 and Sophie Campbell's run, all of the brothers were separated. Splinter was dead, and they were kind of all in different spots and didn't know how to work together. In this series, Jason Aaron's kind of been putting them back together again, but the boys haven't been willing to work as a team. They've been very at odds with each other and all convinced they could take care of it themselves. Meanwhile, the district attorney, Hale, has gone off the deep end and is absolutely trying to paint the turtles and into bad guys so nobody trusts them, or other mutants in the area. And after his lawsuit against them did not go the way he planned, he finds himself mutating into a giant monster, and the turtles are having to face him in the court of the streets in this issue. And the only way they're going to be able to do it is if they learn to work together. Meanwhile, they've all been hearing voices from a rat that they believe is their father, Splinter, and in this issue they are trying to figure out, now that the voice is gone, if maybe there's some way they can reach across to the dark side and talk to their father one more time as they bring themselves back together. And this is going to set up Jean Yang taking over and bringing us a new arc coming very soon with some very big cliffhanger moments to last until then. And if you don't know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 13 has blind bags, so get ready for that wild adventure. Hornsby and Halo, issue 11 from Image Comics and the Ghost Machine universe. This is one of the best all ages, like truly encompassing the concept of what all ages means, stories out there on the shelves right now, because it's so good for adults and even kids and teens and everybody. But this is the story of two kids, one who is essentially the chosen one to take over hell, the other who is chosen to take over heaven. They are going to bring a massive apocalyptic situation if they are raised in their respective places, and so they're sent to Earth as babies to be raised in the nature versus nurture. Let's switch it around, a little New Gods-esque kind of thing. Our devil is raised with the nicest people on the planet, our angel with the worst people on the planet. And they've kind of recently learned that they have these powers and that there's these expectations of them, and they're both ignoring them as much as humanly possible. And so in this issue, they find out that their respective parents have both been told that there is something waiting for them in New York City. And so they each kind of each family is on their own trip to New York, and they end up having to cross paths and go together to New York. And there's some crazy stuff that's definitely coming their way, but we are finding out that in this issue, there's some twists and turns that are trying to get them to maybe fall into the trap of living up to the expectations of angels and demons and bringing that apocalypse about. And their poor families are kind of just getting mixed up in all the trouble in this issue. Absolutely a fun ride. Again, if you're fans of things like Super Sons from DC and you're looking for an indie book that's going to be good for you, this one is definitely the one to grab. And if you're looking for something that, like, you have an 11 to 13 year old and they're like, hey, I want to read comics, but I want them to look like they're drawn for adults, this is definitely the series to give them. Drawing Blood, issue 9 from Image Comics. If you ever wanted to know exactly what the story of Kevin Eastman is, this is not it. But this is as close to the imaginative world of what Kevin Eastman wants you to think his world was like, becoming the creator of something as huge as Ninja Turtles. This is the story of a man named Books, who is the creator of a big franchise of cat ninjas who kind of become the hugest thing in comics, from something he made in his garage to an animated show in the 90s. Again, it's not, but it's totally the story of Kevin Eastman. And now he's wasted all his money on things like booze, drugs, and tanks, and needs to figure out a way to move forward with his life. And he thinks that is to create a musical that is an adaptation of Metropolis, which is definitely not the way to go. In this series, he's finally kind of hit rock bottom, and so in this issue, he is he's been forced to go either to jail or to a rehab center, and this issue is him in that rehab center, kind of dealing with the fact that he actually wants to hear the voices of his characters he's created, and he kind of feels like he does actually need that, and that's more of a drug to him than actual drugs and alcohol actually are. It's such a fascinating look at what it is like to be somebody who creates their own fame from their imagination, just kind of blowing up, and what happens when you create something that no longer belongs to you in such a big way, and you lose control of everything in your life. It's such a great series, and again, it's kind of like a fictional version of the Kevin Eastman story. Silverhawks, issue 9 from Dynamite. This is bringing you a new version of the Silverhawks cartoon. What I love about this one is that so many of the cartoon stories that are out right now are kind of bringing us rehashings of the stories or reimagining of the stories. Silverhawks is actually like, hey, it's been that many years since the Silverhawk team existed. Now they're old and they can't do the job, and their biggest foe, Monstar, is back. And so they need to recruit a new team, and that's exactly what's happened. And so far, this new team has not really had any real training time. They're kind of just being thrown at it because they were put together after the bad guy came out. And so they're trying to deal with it. Well, they're one person that has come to them that said, like, I know what's going on and I can help you fight this bad guy. Turns out not so good themselves. And so in this issue, they are being told, hey, you know what, you need to go after the person that you've been trusting to help you. And the bad guy is also right there, ready to attack. And so they're kind of being hit from all sides. And again, they're not very well trained. And so the old guard's kind of trying to help them figure out how to battle the situation. And yet there's not much left of them either. And so who's going to make it and what's going to happen, we're going to see as this continues to unfold. Thundercats Lost, issue 7, also from Dynamite. This is the side story in the Thundercats universe. If you're reading Thundercats proper, you know that it's kind of the story of the Thundara getting destroyed, and the Thundercats having to move to Third Earth. This is actually a story of people who Thundercats who left Thundara before it was destroyed to kind of scout out Third Earth and see if it would work for a place to move the Thundercats to. And unfortunately, they never made it back before Thundara was destroyed, and so they don't even they're not connected to the group in the actual Thundercats proper. And so this group is on Third Earth, and they are having a lot of problems, including a bounty being put on their head by some people. And they were recently caught by pirates in the last issue, and in this issue, it's kind of the fallout of that, them trying to get away from the pirates trying to get away from them, all kinds of problems here and there. And we're seeing how we lost some of these Thundercats, like how some of the things are going that's led to some of these big battles that's put us not connected to the Thundercats, since this all happened before, and we know like which Thundercats we've come across in the Thundercats proper. It's like, well, what happened to all these guys? And we're starting to see just exactly how that went down as this one gets deeper into it. We've got Exquisite Corpses, issue 6 from Image Comics and the Tiny Onion Collective. If you haven't been reading Exquisite Corpses, this is a huge new book from James Tynion. This is basically a battle royale that is, kind of taken on with different people. I love that they bring in different creators on artists and writers and things for each issue, much like an Exquisite Corpse art piece is done, where different people make different parts of it. That's kind of how each of the issues of this go. And so in this issue, we are seeing, in this series, I guess I should say, there is a bunch of families who are actually the ruling parties of the, of secretly rule America. And basically every so many years, they quarantine off a little town without telling the town that they're going to do it. They send in a bunch of psychopathic killers. Those killers have a battle royale in which they take out themselves and as many other people in the town. And whoever's killer makes it out alive, that family is the winner, and they get to rule America for the next 4 years. And so far, we've gone pretty far into our battle royale. We've lost a couple of killers already. We've seen some of them kind of go on their own killing sprees. This one has us following the story of Gamer Kid, who is the youngest of the killers, and he's a small child who really just is very violent, and we kind of see why. We actually get, unlike a lot of the other characters, we actually get his entire reason for why he wants to do this. But he is on a trick-or-treat mission, trying to have some fun and kill people all at the same time, teaming up with a local kid and a chaperone, and he's also taken out a lot of people in the process. But we do get to see like how each of these people kind of go into the overall battle. There is at the back of the book a bracket that keeps track of who's still in the game and who isn't. Meanwhile, we do also get to bounce back and forth and get to see which of the families, like how the families are responding as things are getting a little bit like heavier for them as their killers are being taken out. I'm going to take another drink of the Frankenstein wine, drinking Bride of Frankenstein to celebrate the holiday. All right. It is good. It's one of those that's like, it's just a basic wine, but it's a nice smooth basic wine. It's not like too sweet. It's not too, there is no like spice or kick to it. So it's like, if you just want a wine that kind of tastes like grape juice, this is kind of this one. News from the Fallout, issue 5 from Image Comics. I don't know how Chris Condon continues to like add something different to this like every single issue, but he really does, and he's just bringing more and more story. And so in this issue, we actually find out a lot of the origin of what is happening in the story. If you don't know the series, basically during the like atom bomb testing in 1954, they decide to not move it away from people, and a bunch of the people get turned into essentially zombies, and they start attacking the towns in the area. And we have one guy who's made it out of the fight, who is kind of like the one leading the charge of, hey, zombies are coming to everybody in the town. And now we are following him and a woman and a man from a local diner as they try to break free. Recently, they came upon another small town, and it's supposed to be a ghost town in the area, and they met the one person that's there. In this issue, that we actually learn what it is that the bomb activated that caused it to create these zombies and these peoples and this people, and what it was, that how long it's been there. And I love Chris just making that like prehistoric essentially, and how it's impacted other towns and other people throughout the time. And we just see that this is not a new thing, and that this darkness has been sleeping and waiting for this attack for a really long time. And are we going to make it out? Is anybody going to make it out? I don't actually think so. So we'll see if anybody does actually make it. I love that he also puts in there at the back, he always has back matter. It's really good. That has a bunch of articles and different news reports and things like that that help you see more in the universe and what's going on. So you can kind of keep up with what's been happening in that area for all these years. So we've got Lazarus Fallen, issue 5 from Image Comics. This is Greg Rucka bringing Lazarus back. Greg Rucka, if you're watching, you could bring Black Magic back now too. That'd be cool. But this is the return of the Lazarus world. And basically, if you don't know, much like Exquisite Corpses, the world has kind of been taken over by a bunch of rich ruling families. And they each make up their own person who's kind of like their champion that they send out into the world to kind of represent them and to fight for different things. And in the Lazarus series proper, the person from the Forever family, I believe it's the Forever family, she has, or the Carlisle family, her name is Forever, sorry. They have a Carlisle family. She's kind of discovered that that's what her purpose is, and that's who she is, and she wants to get away from that. And then they build a new one to replace her, and she helps that person get away. And so her and her sister essentially are now on the run, and they found a way to team up with the rebels. And in this issue, we are seeing where the rebels are dropping them off, but we're also seeing how all the families are responding to the fact that it is now known that the Carlisle people are out there, and that they've teamed up with these rebels, and that there might be more danger coming, and that maybe, just maybe, you're not going to actually win this one. There might be a chance where the rebels now finally can take out the rich ruling families, and we're going to see what happens as they start to panic and overcompensate. The Killer, Affairs of the State, Volume 2, and this is issue 5. This is from Boom Studios, and this is such a good book. If you are a fan of French comics, this is a great one. We are trying to figure out how we can get some copies of the original version of The Killer. If you saw the movie starring Michael Fassbender, it is based off of this series. But it's so good. This is about this particular, like, the story itself is about a guy who is an assassin, and he's very meticulous and very like just dry in how he kind of goes about his day and how he reports things, and he's always very much like, this is the job. In this volume, which you don't have to have read anything else to pick this up, but in this volume, he is supposed to be on a case where he's watching some people, and in the process of doing so, he learns that the people that he's watching are actually trafficking children. And for the first time, he's kind of like, you know what, I have to do something. I can't just ignore the fact that this is happening. These are bad people, and bad people deserve to be taken out. And he is approached by some of the kids when they try to escape, and so he ends up accidentally changing the plans of his requirements of his job, and now him and one of the young girls are on the run as he's trying to keep her safe from the people coming, not only for her but for him at this point. And we're really starting to see like what happens when you do go against the people in charge of assigning you missions. Very good spy, like assassin thriller. Space Ghost, issue 4 from Dynamite. This is volume 2 of Space Ghost. Still David Pepos, still telling us a really fun Space Ghost story. And much like the Saturday Morning Adventures and Thundercats and things like that, this is very episodic in nature, kind of feels like watching Space Ghost the show. And in this issue, Space Ghost and Jan and Jace have gone to a planet where there is a shark planet and an ice crystal like kingdom that are finally saying that they're going to sign a treaty and go out and like be allies instead of going to war against each other like they've been doing for so long. And in the moments when they're supposed to sign it, somebody creates an attempt to take both of them out, and they each blame the other one. And so Space Ghost and Jan and Jace are trying to figure out how to explain to them like what is going on and how to actually keep them safe and stop a war from happening. And unfortunately for our team of heroes who's trying to do just that, they think that the easiest way to do the people, the leaders of these two planets, think the easiest way to do that is to blame Jace as the attempted assassin for things. And now Space Ghost has to figure out how to stop the war while also figuring out how to get Jace out of prison and blame for what is going on. And this one leaves us on a cliffhanger for a second part to the story. Love Struck, issue 4 from AMP Comics. This continues to be one of my absolute favorite books on the shelf. We need more romance stories. We need more romantic comedies. This one nails every beat of your classic, like 90s off-the-wall romantic comedies in the best way. Seriously, I love this book so freaking much. And if you don't know the story, basically a girl who absolutely, positively hates love. She is going to meet her boyfriend in issue 1 only to find out that he's proposing, and she takes off in her car trying to get away and ends up hitting a man who just happens to be Cupid. And now Cupid is going to die from his physical body, and if he does, she will go to jail. And so the way that she's going to save Cupid and herself is by getting a bunch of people to fall in love. And unfortunately for her, the first person that's on their list to make fall in love is actually her dad. And so she learns about her dad, who always dates young women who are less than half his age. She learns that he actually had the perfect romance and love story back when he was young and almost got married to the woman of his dreams, but thought she was cheating on him at their wedding and blew up the whole thing. And now she's having to work to recover that romance with Cupid. Unfortunately for her, in this issue, it's actually working. And she hates love so much that she can't handle the idea that it is working. And so she almost sabotages it herself. And so we've got a lot of twists and turns because the goddess Aphrodite is really disappointed in her son Cupid, and she is constantly changing the stakes of this book. And the more love we find, the more bitter our lead character gets. It is so good. It's hilarious. It's fun. It feels like you're watching a great movie that you would watch over and over again from, like I said, like the late 90s, early 2000s classic. I keep comparing it to Bedazzled starring Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley, and it still has that same kind of feel in it, and you should absolutely be reading it if you love those kinds of movies. Sisterhood, issue 4 from Image Comics and the Ghost Machine imprint. And this is a side story to the Hyde Street world, which we're actually starting to see kind of make a little bit of an appearance into the Hyde Street side, on the Hyde Street side, I should say. But if you haven't read this story yet, you don't have to read Hyde Street to read it. It completely stands alone. I know this is one of Katie's favorites, and she's never read Hyde Street, so you don't have to have any Hyde Street knowledge. But this is all about two girls who are best friends, and they go to college together, and they're living as roommates, and one of the friends decides she wants to join a sorority. And when she is in her rush, they actually haze her to the point where she ends up dying. And the one friend is so sad to lose her best friend that she seeks out help in order to bring her back from the dead, only for it to find out that she is kind of psychotically angry about what is going on, and insert great horror story from here on, where she tries to get her friend to go and rush the same sorority and get revenge. And now we're seeing so much of that horror ghost revenge story, to the point where our lead character is very not wanting to be a part of this anymore. She wants out. People are dying all around her. She's being blamed for it, and now we're getting a war of the bodies to figure out who is going to actually be the one who inhabits the body, and who is going to what's going to happen. Or is she going to survive? Is everybody going to die? We've got, I believe, only one issue left. I think issue 5 is the last one. This is going to wrap in the most wild way possible, and it is going to connect probably to Hyde Street from that wrap. But either way, like, we're seeing something really dark and dangerous coming for these girls, and I don't know who's going to make it out alive. Cemetery Kids Run Rabid, issue 3, and this is volume 2, issue 3. So you do have to have read Cemetery Kids volume 1, because issue 1 of this picks up exactly where issue 4 of the last series, or 3 of the last series, ended. But this is about a bunch of kids who play a video game that is very much corrupting their minds. And so when they go into their online computer game in volume 1, they start to notice that things that happen to them in the game are happening to them in real life, to the point where the oldest kid in the group, the older brother of our main character, gets trapped in the game and cannot find his way out. And in this series, they're actually trying to figure out exactly how to save him, because while they thought maybe he was out of the game and he was fine, it turns out he is by far not fine, and very much things are going down in there. And so in this series, they have been figuring out new ways to get into the game, and have figured out maybe who the ultimate, like, bad guy is, but they're trying to figure out how they can use that to their advantage to save people. And unfortunately, we're losing more people left and right. And we learn in this issue that they're not the only kids who are being affected by it, and that there's whole, like, list of people who have gone missing or have been damaged by this game. And we're going to see if they actually can work together to not only save themselves, but to maybe stop all of the bad stuff that's coming through this game. Escape, issue 3, from Image Comics and the Giant Generator imprint, which is Rick Remender, who writes this book's imprint. We saw issue 1 for this was like a really big war story coming our way, and it kind of just started with a group of people who are anthropomorphic dogs, actually, but a group of dogs who get dropped, like, are supposed to be doing an attack mission, and they get shot down and they land behind enemy lines. And issue 2 kind of gave us that backstory of our main character and why he ended up in the war, and also how, like, what he's fighting to get home to, which works really well when you come back to issue 3 and we're back inside of that behind enemy lines territory, and you are more invested in, like, oh my god, is this guy gonna get out? Because you know now what he's fighting for, and you know what he needs to get home to. And so you're like, oh my god, no, you can't die, I need you to live. And he gets to have those emotionally charged moments, but he isn't trying to get out just yet, because he has a mission that he's on, and he knows that is what he was assigned to do. And he knows that if he leaves it, that he's not going to be able to change the tide of the war, and they might lose it. And so he is still trying to complete that mission, but he's on his own, and it is very dangerous. And I love how he keeps having to tell himself, like, talk himself through survival as each thing is happening. And Rick really does a great job of building a war story, but also building a great action sequence out of one issue. And he even talks about that, like, everybody knows, like, I love a good action sequence, but to make one issue the full, like, action sequence and put all that emotional charge behind it was really great the way he did it, and such a great issue. Red Vector, issue 3, from Mad Cave. This is a big sci-fi, like, adventure kind of story going on right here. And basically there's a big war that's happening out in a different galaxy, a galaxy far, far away, if you would. And it's led kind of between two brothers who are at odds with each other. And a space cowboy kind of guy, a very Han Solo-esque kind of person, is going up against these guys. And one of the brothers and this guy end up crashing through a portal and landing on Earth. And in the process, they meet a young park ranger who kind of takes them in and is like, okay, we've got to figure out a way to get you back and figure out what's going on. Well, the evil brother has found out where they are and has sent people after them, or robots specifically after them. And we're trying to kind of convert them into ways to use for our own side in this issue, and kind of figure out who's going to be on whose side, because the humans who are discovering them are, of course, angry about aliens. The aliens themselves, like these people from this other galaxy, are not in on it, because the brother who's the good brother was not good before. It was a very evil person as well, and he's kind of trying to turn sides now, and it's not something that this guy's willing to accept. We're just now seeing this adventure start to unfold and really get bigger as the story goes on. And so if you're looking for a Star Wars-esque sci-fi epic that comes to Earth instead of to different planets, you should definitely check out Red Vector. Invisible Man hits issue 3 this week from Image, Skybound, and Universal Monsters. This is James Tynion also. This is the book he actually really wanted to do for Universal Monsters when they first launched the imprint at Skybound, and you can tell because there's so much love and attention going into this Invisible Man story. Much like the Invisible Man actual like movie and Universal story, we've got a man who is, you know, obsessed with his research and is determined to figure out how to just push these boundaries further and further. And in that same sense, what he ends up doing is he starts to work on rats, and he notices that he makes them disappear, and now he's moved on to bigger animals, and he really wants to start his human trials. And this, he knows that his girlfriend's dad is not going, who is the funder of his research, isn't going to let him do that. So he ends up finding his own place to do his research from, where he can take in like a young street urchin, and is like, I'm going to experiment on him. And we get to see the process of him working out the invisibility on this kid in this issue, and how he kind of pushes it further and further, and how he himself is kind of starting to become invisible. Like he's like, I'm practicing the art of being invisible and learning what it's like to go into rooms and have nobody see me, and he's slipping away from his own life emotionally as it's happening. And so we're seeing that sideline, much like the actual Universal Monsters movie. We are also seeing him get very much angry and intolerable towards people as this continues to grow. And so there is this darkness that's coming. All of these have been 4 issues so far, for I believe for all of the Universal Monsters books. So I'm really curious to see how they will wrap this up if they do only do 1 more issue, because there's so much more that they could tell with this story. But it has been solid so far for sure. The Dusk, issue 2 from AMP Comics. We talk about how AMP, when they've launched this 4 books, this is the 4th book for AMP this year, that they have launched in 4 different genres and have nailed every one. Prodigal Son was a perfectly awesome Western story that they just really felt the vibe of. Never Wars nails the fantasy as that continues to grow. Love Struck is the perfect romantic comedy. And Dusk is such a great new superhero story for us, and they're really getting all of the elements and excitement that you want in a super hero. And so this follows a guy who is a former boxer, kind of, I guess, like still a little bit, but he's got a daughter who's kind of taken over the boxing world, and she's doing that, and he's kind of moved into mostly just being the superhero. He is still a police detective, and he's got that like Daredevil-esque, like, I see the criminals not get taken in and I want to take them in myself. Well, he's been trying to figure out what's going on with this crime ring, because he's noticing that people, like kids who are impressionable and people on the street who need stuff, are being hired to rob museums and banks and different things with no desire to actually do it themselves. And as the Dusk, he stops a kid from doing just that in the early part of this issue, and now he's figured out who the ultimate head of this ring is, and so he's trying to figure out how he can get to them and what he needs to do as either a detective or the Dusk to actually stop this. Again, just a solid superhero story, and a lot of times when small press publishers take on the superhero genre, a lot of times it can fall a little flat, and I really think that they're getting all the layers and all the beats so well in this book. And so if you didn't grab it yet, I believe we might even still have some local comics update copies of issue 1, but either way, you definitely want to check out The Dusk. And honestly, anything AMP Comics is doing, it's a publisher you want to have your eyes on. Powers. This is issue 2 of our new volume of Powers. This is the is it 25th anniversary of Powers, and so and it's bringing back the team of Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oming to tell some more stories in the Powers world. And this is the daughter of somebody who was already a powers detective. She finds herself working in the force. We actually get to see her story of how she was moved from Vice into the powers story in this one. And in issue 1, we actually see the problem being that powers detectives are detectives, human detectives who research what is going on in the superhero world, because it's the world of supers, but they should also be held accountable and also protected by the police. And so she goes to investigate a crime, and it is a monstrous crime to say the least. And so she is trying to figure out that story and that situation. And the further she gets into it, the more things get a little convoluted. And in this issue, she also finds herself being put into the mix. There's something going on here. Her police badge is found on a gambling table of people who are powers and who are trying to like take down some powers. And so why is she being mixed up with these superpowered things that people are trying to gamble for? What is her connection to all of this? And how is she going to actually work to fight and figure out this situation when superhero people don't trust her and she doesn't trust them? And there's some new partnerships coming as the series goes on. We've got Creepshow Volume 4, Issue 2 from Image Comics and the Skybound imprint. I'm so excited that we're on 4 volumes of this new thing of Creepshow. I got to hear so many people who came for the Gothic Book Fair this week say, oh my gosh, I love Creepshow. I didn't know they made comics, or I didn't know they were making comics again for Creepshow. And so it's really cool to get to see that. In our first story in this one, in this anthology issue, we see a scientist who is trying to figure out how to control ants and all of the movement that they do, and is making her team research it and kind of pushing them beyond their limits. And we get to see, when that queen ant overworks her worker ants and they do kind of revolt against her, what would that look like? And how deep and dark can we take that? We can only count on Creepshow to show us. And then the second story is all about a rich man who is highly offended by the existence of people who he considers beneath him. And while he is on a golf course, he is offended by his caddy's existence, purely, totally, that's all it is. And he ends up attacking the caddy, and the dad and the son of the caddy are both immigrants, and so he feels like they're cursing him because of the attack that he has been caused on them. And so he starts to have his good luck change to bad luck and is having to deal with what that looks like. And one of the things about Creepshow, as well as all of our EC books, is we always get a great moral lesson in there, and he is definitely somebody who is going to have to face his comeuppance in that story. Skinbreaker, issue 2 from Image Comics and Skybound imprint, and this is the new Robert Kirkman book. So if you're a fan of Invincible and Walking Dead and you're looking for something new from Robert Kirkman, here it is. And look at that David Finch, like crazy detailed art on that double page spread. In this world, we are following along as this tribe of people is basically dealing with a lot of internal problems. The chieftain of the tribe is starting to get old and has decided that maybe his young protege is the person to take over for him. Unfortunately, that's not how it works in this tribe, and the only way you can take over for the chieftain is by challenging him to a battle to the death. And in issue 1, the guy that nobody likes in the tribe, the one who's very cruel and mean to others, has decided that he's going to challenge the chief. And before he can open up and say something, the young protege steps in and says he'll challenge the chief. And now he is the one that must kill his own leader, or he is going to have to, he'll have to actually die himself and let that other person challenge the chieftain immediately after, and still have lost everything. On top of that, there is a whole concept around like this religion and belief system within this tribe that basically their skin breaks through the sunlight and exposure to this sword. And our new chieftain's son has actually not had his skin break, even though he is long past time for that to happen. And so we're going to see how that comes into the story as that comes to play. And so big action, big world building going on in this, and we get to see some before and afters and different moments, and why we need a new chieftain, and why that might be the right person if he does take over. No Man's Land, issue 2 from Image Comics and One Man Art, Simon Kudronsky. I love this book so much. If you watch the show, you know that I love Simon's work, and this is no exception to that. Basically, this takes place in a time period where we're still in the middle of the Cold War, and basically there is in this story there is an island set that when it gets cold enough between Russia and the US, these islands freeze over, like the water up there freezes over, and it connects these islands, and nobody kind of owns the area where the ice is. Like, you know, America owns one island, Russia owns the other, and nobody owns the island ice that flows in between, and that's kind of why it's the no man's land. And in this issue 1, a man who is trying to just retire from his work in the federal government is sent out there to investigate a very strange and creepy murder that has happened in the middle of the ice. And so nobody can get there, and nobody understands how this murder happened. And so he goes out there, and they are like, you have to solve this before really it's the USSR can solve it. And so he ends up in this issue meeting a woman from the KGB who's also investigating, and they decide that it's really more important to both of them that this murder actually gets solved than that they follow the idea that, like, the two countries should not talk to each other. And so they decide that they're going to share information and they're going to work together to solve this. We are learning a lot. We're learning the myths of what the people believe there, and how their religion has morphed from different things, and how their belief system has changed. We're getting to see the people of the area not wanting to work with each other. We're getting to see these two really find some big investigative things. This is going to be a huge story with a lot of twists and turns, and we're already seeing the idea of, like, coming together, double-crossing, monsters, supernatural, humans being terrible. Like, what is it? We don't know. There's so many different directions this book could still go in, because we're in the middle of nowhere and we don't know anything. And so this is going to be a hard case to solve, and I love going on this adventure with it. It Killed Everyone But Me, issue 2 from Mad Cave. This is a great one for the season, honestly, because it's got such a cool wicked horror idea. But in issue 1, we saw some people who were being murdered, and there was like this big, like, what are these murders coming from? How is this connected? And it kind of showed us that they seemed very similar to the story of a woman who's now an adult who found herself on a summer vacation with her friends, and while they were in their cabin where they were all staying, a very dark slasher movie kind of situation occurred to them. Except what we've learned from her over the last 2 issues was it wasn't a person, it was some kind of, like, dark horror entities, something that came for all of them, and it killed everyone but her. And she we saw in issue 1 that she's kind of bound this entity and kept it safe, but so she's like, if something is happening again, like, did this darkness get away, or is there something else out there, and are there more of these horrific monsters who can kill things? And so in this issue, her and the local sheriff are going to actually research it together, and she feels like for the first time she actually has to tell somebody the truth about what happened that weekend at the cabin. And so we're still getting the back behind the scenes. Like, each issue we kind of see some piece of the puzzle from the past, while we also do this investigation of the now. And it is definitely creepy and gives you a great horror movie vibe for the season. Harbinger is back from Valiant Books and Alien Books, as we are bringing back that new launch of the Valiant world. This is issue 2, so we've recently kicked this off. And in the last issue, we saw that some bad guys were back that we fought in the past with Harbinger, and they are trying to take them on, but for some reason these bad guys are suddenly much stronger than our heroes are, and they need some help with that. And so while they're struggling and fighting, the actual, like, Harbinger Academy decides that they are going to elect one of their students to actually join the team and send them out in the middle of this battle to kind of save them. And we see Cece, who's a young girl, who is chosen as the one to go, dropped into this battle. And when she gets there, all of the other members of the team have basically been defeated or, like, knocked out somewhere, and she's like, oh my god, I have to fight this battle. And even the bad guy's like, ooh, a new Harbinger, what's your power? And she's like, disc. And they're like, what? And she's like, I make these like light discs and I can shoot them. And like all of the heroes and villains that she comes into contact with are just like, that's it. That's your power. And so she's kind of feeling like she already felt like nobody wanted her to join the team. And now she really feels like nobody wants her to join the team. And even the bad guys don't take her seriously. So she's dealing with all of that emotional stuff. Well, we're also dealing with the fact that there are bad guys everywhere and the team needs to defeat them. And so how Cece's going to fall into this role and whether or not they're actually going to be strong enough to defeat these old new bad guys or new old bad guys, we're going to see as the Valiant universe refreshes and rebuilds. Murder Podcast, issue 2 from Ignition. This was our launching point for Ignition, and so we're seeing a second issue coming out of them already. It's really exciting. If you didn't read issue 1 of Murder Podcast, you definitely want to jump into this book soon. This is all about exactly what the title says. There is a podcast that when people listen to it, it actually causes them to kind of go crazy and they start killing people. And in issue 1, we saw a group of girls that were sitting, like longtime friends who were sitting around, and when one of them, when they all dispersed to their different places, one of the girls ends up getting attacked by a man on the street who's listening to the podcast, and we're seeing her story play out in this. Thankfully for her, one of her friends in the group is actually the detective in town, and so she's able to get her friend's safety and like kind of go through and talk about it. Nobody knows though that still at this point that it is this Dead Sounds podcast that are that's kind of triggering everybody to go crazy. And so we see the group kind of working together to just come together and feel safer and kind of deal with what's going on. Meanwhile, we're seeing college kids, we're seeing high school kids, we're seeing adults, everybody that's listening to this podcast. We're seeing more and more murder starting to come up to this. And our detective girl is really struggling to figure out what is happening and where all of this darkness in the world is coming from, and it's really starting to impact her relationships with her friends and everybody else. We also see a little bit of a tease that maybe there's something darker afoot in this area. It's a really interesting thing and kind of a big look from Jeremy Hahn on how true crime is impacting the people who listen to it, which I know Osgood Perkins just did a whole interview about that recently, about how true crime is like impacting the way people think about crime and murder in America. And so it kind of fits perfectly with that right now, as this book just really showcases that. Nocturnals, issue 2 from Dark Horse, and this is The Sinister Path. Katie and I went down a rabbit hole today and found out that there is so much Nocturnal. So if you are enjoying this series, there's like all the way back to, what did we say, like 1992? There's been like 8, 9, 10, 13 volumes of Nocturnals. You don't have to know any of those. They did a really good job of telling you all about these characters in issue 1 and continuing to do that. But this is, if you are a fan of Mark Spear's Monsters, I think this is another great one because this is a world of monsters, and it's specifically following a monster detective who is trying to figure out what happened to this lawyer who's gone missing and all of the files that he had and the clients that were in these files that seem to be getting attacked. He's got some really cool sidekicks. He's got this gun witch, which is the coolest thing. That sounds so cheesy, but let me see if I can find a picture of him. I'm just going to show you the picture on the back. He is the coolest, wicked, awesome guy. And he's kind of the arm, like the enforcer for this detective that he kind of calls in at times. His daughter is a young girl who has the ability to talk to spirits and ghosts, and she finds a lot of them through toys that she sees and communicates with. And so you get to see that kind of taking place, and so she meets like a young boy when they're investigating the lawyer's house, and he is a ghost because she communicates with the ghost, and she's able to kind of see some things that are going on and some darkness that's coming up. We also have the woman who is this siren mermaid person who's kind of the queen of the sea that's dealing with a lot of stuff and connected to this. And in this issue, we're furthering that case. We're just doing a little bit more investigation and learning a little bit more about each of these characters and how they're affected by it and who's coming into this. If you want to check this out, issue 1 was actually a trick or read title, so you can actually grab a free copy at Bat City of issue 1 on the trick or read table. And if you don't shop at Bat City, go to your local comic shop and ask them if they got that Trick or Read title, because this is a great one for the season to pick up and really just get into it. And that art is so fantastically cool. It's awesome to see these characters and the painted scapes. Again, if you are liking Mark Spear's Monsters, you should definitely read this, because you get a lot of that same feel and a lot of the painted pictures and beautiful scapes in there as well. All right, we got some new number ones for you. We've got Gaia. This is a part of the AWA Future Fic line where they are talking about prototopias, which prototopia is basically the idea of, utopias are perfect, dystopias are terrible. What if you had just like that actual like futuristic, like this is something that could happen, and it's not going to be necessarily good and it's not going to necessarily be bad. It's just kind of gonna be, and we can still mess it up just as much as we don't. We don't mess up things now, and so we do mess up things now. This is the story of a woman who is a biochemist, and her name is Dr. Gayatri Jones, and she is working to see if she can find out how to connect to the fungal networks. If you don't know, like there's that whole belief in science that fungi and mushrooms kind of have the ability to communicate through different vibrations and things. And we're actually seeing this appear in a couple different comics right now. And she ends up trying to get her grant expanded so that she can figure out if that network can go from fungus to other plants to animals and maybe even humans, because then we could find a way to talk to nature and actually figure out how to work with it. Well, the grant people are upset that she presents that research as part of her grant and her research development, and they're like, that's not what we gave you money for, and we're not okay with you changing the point of your grants. And so they end up cutting her grant funding, and she's like, I have to figure out how to make this work as soon as possible before my grant funding that I already have runs out. In the process of doing so, she actually figures out how to connect with those mushrooms and is going on this journey to kind of figure out what is going to happen with nature, and leads her down this like path that could go in either direction. She could either build a beautiful world or she can destroy it. And because this is a one shot, I don't want to show you too much more. But it's such a fascinating concept and a great story to see where she's going to take it. And it's funny, it has a foreword by Darren Aronofsky. And so I'm wondering if because AWA's really been like pushing that they are AWA studios and that they want to do a lot of movie projects from their books, which is why they've kind of slowed down on their movies or their books, is so that they can kind of connect them. And I'm curious if Darren is on here as the forward, because maybe we're going to see some kind of production come out of this story. We've got Warwolf, issue 1 from Mad Cave. Will say there were no werewolves in Warwolf. I thought there would be. I don't know if that means they're coming later, but there were not, and I want to say that right now before people get excited. But there are aliens, lots of aliens. And so this is the story of a guy who hasn't really figured out his life. He's very much like every job, every title, every relationship he has, he definitely blows it every single time. And he finally gets a job as a security guard, and it is like a low-level security job at a place where absolutely nothing happens. And he's like, I feel like I can't mess it up because this is kind of my last thing, and if I can't do this job, what can I do? Well, on one of those days where all of the other security guards get drunk and nothing's happening, he actually ends up finding out that an alien invasion has landed right inside of his job, and he's like, I've got to defend my job because I'm the security guard. And while he goes on this adventure to try to save the day, only to find out that the day is going to be much bigger than he thought it was going to be. But it's definitely just a fun like sci-fi adventure of, hey, what would you do if you weren't good at anything and suddenly aliens invaded? A big story is definitely coming in, and because it's Steve Orlando, I know there's going to be some point to it that's going to be like completely unrelated to aliens or an invasion. And it's probably going to deal a lot more with him coming to terms with whether or not he's good at the things he does and those relationships he's been bad at.
Maybe werewolves.
And maybe werewolves. I don't know. I kind of want to message Steve and be like, are there wolves in Warwolf? Because I like the title because I thought there was werewolves. Are there going to be werewolves versus aliens? We've done that in comics and it was fantastic. Let's do it again. We've got Thanksgiving issue 1. Issue only 1 because it's a one shot, and we've got, it's from Ahoy Comics and the great and powerful Mark Russell. That is the only way I will refer to him from now on. I know it's not even Halloween yet, but this is here so you can get ready, because if you are looking for an interesting off-the-wall Thanksgiving book that's still got a little bit of that horror kick to it, this is definitely the one for you. This is about a family, and I love it. It's told by a young girl who's like, I go to my family Thanksgiving. My family's a little weird, but everybody's family is weird, and they do this thing that I swear to God, if my family ever starts doing, I'm going to never show up for Thanksgiving ever again, because they decide that every year they're going to confess one terrible thing that they do that nobody in the family knows about. And so they each kind of come up with a really ridiculous thing, nobody really actually tells their family their deep dark secrets, except for their uncle, who is a TV show host and kind of been her surrogate dad forever, decides this is the year that he is going to tell the family his most deep dark secret, and that leads to quite an interesting Thanksgiving in the best way possible. It is a one shot. I'm not going to tell you what any of this happens and anything else that happens in the story is. I will just tell you though that it's written by Mark Russell, and therefore whatever happens in between these pages is going to, in between these covers, these pages are going to be great and wonderful. It's such a good story. It's so much fun. Halloween is on Friday. Pick this up and read it immediately the next day. Kick off your November with a great story that ties perfectly from Halloween to Thanksgiving. Terminator Metal. This is also a one-shot from Dynamite, I believe. I could be wrong. I think it says the end at the end, so I assume it's the end, unless it's going to be another anthology. But anyway, Terminator's been at Dynamite for a while. We had a little ongoing series that was an anthology. I believe this is going to be the only one of the Terminator medals, and then it's going to jump into a different Terminator title. Dude, we got Terminator Santa Claus coming this year, so we could just do all the Terminator books. I'd be okay with it. But they all have been stories that don't have John Connor in them. All of our Terminator books that have been coming out have just kind of been giving us a little bit more of that Terminator world. And in this issue, we follow a scientist who is in that futuristic time when the machines are taking over, and he is the first person to figure out how to rewire a T-800, which is what Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator is, and he figures out how to rewire it and become its friend. And so he is very excited because he has this partner that is this T-800 that's helping him get through, and they are on a mission to try to get some information back to command that they've discovered about Skynet. And there's Terminator Santa Claus. I'm so excited. In the process of it, they come across some other people who are also trying to get back to the command center, and we get the idea of the first real look at, can you trust any of the Terminators, that the machines that you've rerouted and recontrolled, and is that going to be something that goes on? Honestly, these are just perfect for people who are fans of the Terminator movies. They just feel very much in line with it. They're great stories that just expand that universe.
Did you get any of the blind bags?
They are late. They will be coming in on, I don't think it's this week either. I think it's November 15th or something. It might be this week. It might be in November. I want to say it's in November.
I thought it was November 5th or something.
Yeah, I think it's November. Yeah, I think it's November 5th because it was a couple weeks late. But yeah, we do have a couple of the blind bags coming. They delayed their blind bags a bit. So if you were somebody who was blind bag happy for Terminator, it's to be here. It's coming from the future, so it needs to pass through the portal first, and hopefully the bag stays on it when it does, all the things. Speed Racer Tales from the Road. This is Two Princes. This is just a little one-shot, or anthology of stories within the Speed Racer universe. And so there's 2 stories in here. The first one is all about 2 different people, and it's the Two Princes story itself, which it follows Racer X, who... but it is not done by Mark Russell. Mark Russell is writing the Racer X proper story. This is actually done by Mark London, who is the person in charge, the editor-in-chief of Mad Cave in general. And this is a story of two people who both were kind of raised near racing, and who were both told, like, by their parents, you can't trust the world, and you've got to make the choices that are right for you, and you've got to experience that world and whatever's going to come from it. And it shows the two different people and the two different ways they chose to take that. And so it's just a big giant story of nature versus nurture, but in the racing world. And if you're reading Speed Racer and Racer X, you know that there is a lot more to it. It's not just a race book. It's really more of that story of what do you do for your family, and what constitutes as family, and what constitutes as doing the right thing. And this issue really talks a lot about, like, what was the right thing to do, and when you do make that choice, like, is it right for everybody, or is it right for only you? And Sebastian Perez's art looks just really cool in this story. And so this is, the majority of this book is just the Two Princes story, but we do get a little tiny backup story that is just fun, which Speed's little brother takes out the Mach 5 without Speed knowing, and goes on a little joyride, and we get to see all of the stuff that him and his monkey decide to do, and then how that works out for them, because it turns out when small children steal race cars and take them on the road, that's not necessarily the best plan for anybody, but that one's just a fun little bonus story at the back of the book. We've got Outlaw Showdown, which is the EC horror, the EC Comics Western story. And so this is going to give us a little anthology of stories that are going to, I think we have like 4 or 5 in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one of them is a reprint from Two Fisted Tales, number 20. But we're also going to get some fun Western horror stories through here. In the very first one, we find a cowboy who comes upon a village where the whole village has been destroyed. Everybody in this tribe has been taken out, and he decides to take the young girl from the village in and figure out what happened, and he kind of follows her directions, and they chase after the people who attack her, and we get to see what exactly comeuppance in the Old West looks like. And then we have a second story that is following a man who all of his friends, he worked in a mine, all of the mine collapses and all of his friends don't make it out. And so he starts to take over caring for the families of the people with the severance pay that he gets for making it through. But he is very much impacted by this, and he gets a promotion, and he starts becoming the corporate overlord who becomes the really bad guy who doesn't care about the very people that he worked with. And we see just exactly what happens when you become the very problem that you set out against at the beginning. And then we have a third story, which is all about a snake oil salesman who's just really showcasing just how bad it can be when you start trying to swindle all the people in the Old West. And so we see him really coming up with some terrible things that he can do to the people of the town. And then what did the people of the town do when, they figure out that you're a terrible person, and how did they get their revenge, and where do those things come from? We get to see that play out for him and his story. And then we have, then we have the story, wow, this one was great. The story of a guy who works for the Pony Express, and who the postal service, and is delivering mail, and he has to take a letter all the way across the country, and or at least across the state. And when he delivers that letter, what happens and what that message actually entails, and the message he's given to deliver back are insane. And then, like I said, at the very back, there is a story from Two Fisted Tales reprinted from, it actually says the year on there, but I would have to flip it back to the front to tell you exactly what year that was. I will tell you when I close the book. It is 1952. So, really cool, a great lineup. Like one of the stories in here is even like Christopher Cantwell's on there, and Nacinti, John Arcudi. So there's a lot of really cool storytellers in there. We've got Captain Henry and the Graveyard of Time, issue 1 from Dark Horse, and our Curious Objects, which is our Hellboy universe. This is another one of those Hellboy books that you don't have to have read Hellboy to actually jump into. And as with all of them, they're usually only about 1 or 2 issues. And so in this, we are seeing this crazy machine that is basically built around like this machine that can take them into this other side, and they can go to the other world and kind of communicate with the spirit world. And we get to see exactly what that looks like when the guy goes across and goes into this graveyard of time and is able to see all of the different people, and he's trying to figure out how to exactly solve this mystery that they're suffering from. But as with any Hellboy story, when you mess with the other side and you go into these weird, crazy places, there's always something that evokes it. And we are told that there is a dragon that killed this person that he's investigating the death of, and they're like, there's no such thing. He was just crazy. Well, then we get to the other side and we learn that we should never doubt the dead and what they say, because there's always something dark and deadly on the other side. This one actually does, this one has a different writer on it. I know we've been talking recently about like some of the ones that Mike Mignola actually is writing. This one is like story by, which means it's just one of those World of Hellboy books, and so it does have a different writer than Mike Mignola on it, but it's still a great fun adventure. And then lastly, before we get to our picks of the week and our fun horror stories of the week, we've got Electric Cowboy, and this is a new book from Silver Sprocket. This is the whole thing, and it's absolutely just one of those gorgeous things that you get to see. This is all about a man named Alfie who is in love with a girl named Caroline, and Alfie wakes up and Caroline is nowhere to be found. And he's like, what is happening? Like, this was the person I wanted to be with. And so he decides that he is going to essentially tear apart space and time, and so that he can fall into Caroline's memories and start trying to figure out where he can find Caroline and search for her. And so he's going through all of time and space, just going into all of these different things, trying to figure out where exactly where he can find her and how he can bring Carolyn back to him. And so we get to see different moments in her life and different times where like he kind of like forces himself into these situations and he's really just trying to win her over. And at the same time, all it's doing is kind of pushing her a little further from him and making everything a little more awkward. But it's one of those great Silver Sprocket books which really just like pulls different kinds of art pieces and stuff into it, different layouts, different all kinds of cool crazy things. If you enjoy Silver Sprocket books, this is definitely a cool one to pick up, especially because it is oversized, so you do get this in these big giant spatial pictures and like bright colored painting almost kind of moments. A lot of fun, very zine-esque feel, as most things that Silver Sprocket do feel, but with a lot of big adventure. All right, I'm going to take another drink before we talk about our Halloween picks of the week, because we are, of course, drinking the Bride of Frankenstein, celebrating Halloween at every turn. And so all of our picks this week are going to celebrate monsters and Halloween specifically. The books from this week you absolutely have to pick up if you're looking to celebrate Halloween. And we're going to kick it off with Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, Children of the Night, number 4 from Dark Horse. Christopher Chaos, it has become one of those books that really, like, if you started with the Christopher Chaos in the beginning and you were like, it was like not your favorite, I highly recommend jumping back into Christopher Chaos, because the story has become absolutely fantastic. And this mini series, like this, because they subtitle all the different arcs of Christopher Chaos, and this one has been fantastic. Christopher Chaos is basically the Universal monsters as high school students, and one of them being specifically Christopher Chaos is kind of our Victor Frankenstein, and he's really been trying to create these inventions that will help him fit in with other monsters. And over the course of the time, he's become friends with a Dracula kid who is a vampire, a young girl who can talk to cats that are ghosts, and 2 werewolves. And these werewolves have not been the most friendly, but one of them is. In this arc, Children of the Night, he's actually been approached by Dr. Jekyll, who is looking for Christopher as a way to find some solutions to save himself and monster kind. And he tells them, since Adam Frankenstein has gone missing, that he is here to kind of take over as that new role model. But there's something off and deadly about Dr. Jekyll and his relationship to these kids, and we really see that. And we're starting to see more relationship building and stories. This issue has such a great way of looking at the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story. It also is, for a moment, going to be the end of Chris Chaos for a little bit. I know Tate's been working on a lot of stories recently, and so that totally makes sense. But Tate, do not leave Christopher Chaos behind. One of the cool things that they've done on the Children of the Night arc, though, is that they have Christopher Chaos has been talking in all of the arcs about how he loves to read comics. Specifically, Monsters in Love is mentioned as one of the comics he reads, and so this is a flip book for people who want to read some comics like Christopher Chaos is reading. And I love the one in the backup of this. This is about a young girl who is needing a night out to herself, and when she goes out, she ends up meeting a girl. And they share a kiss, and she's like, this is most electric, wonderful kiss. Turns out, and you find this out very quickly, that girl is a ghost, and she shows up at her house and is like, I don't know how I died, I don't remember my life, but when I kissed you, I could finally see that. I want to kiss you again, partially because I love it, but also because I want to remember my life. And they start to develop a relationship, and the more they kiss, the more memories start to come back and flow through, and the weird twists and turns of all of that just are absolutely cool. It's only like a 5-page story, so I don't want to tell you too much about it, but losing yourself in a relationship is definitely the theme of that story in a great way. All right, this one's for Katie and all of us at home who love this book. Orla, issue 3 from Mad Cave. This is definitely the book to pick up if you're looking for something to get you in the Halloween spirit, because this issue takes place at Halloween. If you don't know the story of Orla, Orla is a girl who absolutely wants to believe that love and romance exist. She's obsessed with romance novels, but every time she goes out into the world, she realizes that men are absolutely terrible, and the monster inside of her can't stand that, and literally releases a monster inside her onto these men and devours all of the ones who are terrible. And so she starts kind of just going on dates for that reason, until she decides that she wants to date the person who owns the bookstore next to her. And they actually start building a really great relationship. And now she's trying to figure out how to control the monster inside of her, because she doesn't want to lose this happy relationship she's building, but she still doesn't know that she can trust men and relationships the way she wants to. Meanwhile, she has a best friend who's marrying the worst person on the planet, and she doesn't know what to do about it. And so for the first time ever, Orla goes to the Halloween party of her best friend, and she takes her date, and she's trying so hard to control herself. But guys, people are terrible, and every turn that Orla makes, somebody at this party is really pushing it as far as it can. And meanwhile, there are some detectives who are investigating the mystery that is Orla and all things her monster, and they're waiting for her, and they know she's going to explode soon, and Halloween might just be the day that pushes Orla over the edge. We're gonna find out. I just want her to be happy. Orla is definitely probably going to make that list of Batastic, like the Batastic Awards, and or the Batty. What do we call them now? Do we still call them? Are they the Batty Awards? What did we call them? Batastic. We stopped with Bat. But Orla is definitely probably going to be on that list of characters I want to be friends with, because she just seems like a fun person to hang out with. And you know what? I'm not going to be eaten by Orla, so for me, I could be good friends with her, and we could talk about all the books we read, and it would be so much fun. All right, and then lastly, it's Halloween. We actually have a specific to Halloween anthology out this week with Hello Halloween from Boom Studios. This is a companion to Hello Darkness, which is an ongoing horror anthology from Boom, but they actually managed to just make a Halloween-specific edition. And look at this Jenny Frizen cover. If nothing else, this Jenny Frizen cover is my pick of the week.
I was going to say, too.
Don't you worry.
Cover of the week, for sure.
Yeah, cover of the week, hands down, absolutely. Thank you, Jenny Frizen, for blessing us with this Halloween greatness. Happy Goth Christmas. We've got a couple different stories in this one as well. The first one is from R.L. Stine's Graveyard Club world, which has been a mini series that Boom's put out for the last couple years, and this is them trying to decide how to celebrate Halloween. They want to have a little party in the cemetery, but Officer Ray Ray doesn't let them do it, as he never does let them have any fun. And so they decide they're going to dress up as zombies and scare the town. Unfortunately, somebody beats them to it, and it does not go well for the town at all in any capacity. And so a fun thing, if you haven't read Graveyard Club from R.L. Stine, there's the one we've got a couple issues from this one and the one previously. We get some great hack one page, like just fun stories. He does a couple of different vignettes in every single Hello Darkness, but he also has a full story in I know, and it's about a Ouija board. I love this story because it is a commentary on how we commercialized magical items, and so it's all about a couple that go out to the store and find a Ouija board in the thing, and they're very excited about it, but for all of the wrong reasons, and I'm going to let you read that, but Hack nailed it with that story for sure. And then we have Johnny Pumpkin Time, which is about a guy who, a company that decides the best thing that you could do for Halloween is eat a bunch of candy and film a video of yourself eating as much candy as possible without throwing up, which is not a thing that people are able to accomplish. They all start throwing up. Children start going crazy. The world is terrible. Women and mothers start protesting it, and there is a whole thing. If you are a fan of Halloween 3, this is kind of a story that you should read. This one has very much the Silver Shamrock kind of vibes to it, and such a great one for Halloween 3 fans. And if you're not a fan of Halloween 3, rewatch it, because you should be. And then the next story in there, I'm entirely biased towards, because it is written and drawn by Megan Hutchison, who is one of my favorite people on the planet. And it is all about Samhain, which is the origin of Halloween, and about a grandma who tries to explain to her grandkids the importance of building an altar and stopping the evil spirits from coming through. And they and their parents don't believe the grandma of all of the things of the Irish culture and the Druids and all of the darkness that could come for them. And they learn that when grandma tells you something, you should listen to grandma. And then, gosh, I love Megan. I'm going to ruin this because I just love when Megan draws things that are wicked awesome. So I'm just going to show you how wicked cool this story gets. You gotta read it. Megan does such great horror art for sure. And then the last story is all about, I think it's the last one. Yeah. It's all about a new kid moves to town, and he tells all of the other kids in town that they should go out and do a bunch of like tricks on people during Halloween, and that it should be all about just like punking everybody and all the things you could do. Well, the kids decide they want to do it, but they don't want to be friends with the new kid, and so they all go out and they decide they're going to take all the candy from all the houses, but then they're also going to do a bunch of mean things to everybody. And the spirit of Halloween comes to remind you, it is trick or treat. You don't get both. And these kids suffer the consequences of messing with Halloween, in much in like a trick or treat kind of spirit. It's such a great anthology for Halloween, because again, every story in it actually revolves around Halloween. It's so good for all the like Hello Darkness and horror anthology fun. And there's just so much in there that just gets you excited for the season, and it kind of, each one calls back to a different classic horror movie that feels like the most Halloween like essential stories, without actually like going Michael Myers and slasher, which is great that like we aren't looking at just slasher books. We're reminding people that Halloween is more than just slasher films. And Jenny Frison is making beautiful art for us to stare at to celebrate Halloween. All right. There's a bunch of other books that came out this week. We're going to fly through them really fast. We talked about Prodigal Son being great. AMP has been reprinting it, second prints for everybody who missed it since it was their first book launch. So this is issue 3 of that, which I believe was the last one of it. Yeah, and then, we had a 4. We did have a 4. Okay, but if you didn't get to read Prodigal Son, the Western book that kicked off AMP, it's coming out again. Power Rangers also had a Halloween special, which, everybody needs a Halloween special, and I'm glad that the Power Rangers fans got one too. Boom was all about Halloween this year. Boom was like, everybody make a Halloween book, let's go. Undead Iron Fist issue 2 came out. Green Arrow issue 29 I'm really excited because they just announced that there's going to be an issue that's like the marriage of Green Arrow and Black Canary, which is going to be great. Absolute Wonder Woman hit issue 13. We have Immortal Legend Batman issue 3. We've got Green Lantern issue 28. Harley Quinn has hit issue 54. Congratulations. That series just keeps going and keeps expanding. Fantastic Four's new series hit issue 4 with that Scotty Young. We've got Justice League Red out with issue 2. We've got Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu issue 13. New History of the DC Universe had issue 4 out this week, which I believe is the last one of that. And I love also Jenny Frison giving us this awesome Joe cover. Miles Morales issue 38. We had Spider-Girl issue 5. Ultimate Spider-Man hit issue 22, and Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion came out this week, and I didn't grab that. And Ultimates issue 17 also out this week, all leading up to Ultimate Endgame, which hits stores December 31st to kick off the ending of the Ultimate Universe. The countdown is over. The end of the Ultimate Universe has begun, or it will, on New Year's Eve this year. We also have some great trade paperbacks that are so far away. We'll see if I can reach them all. Old Man Logan hit the Marvel Premiere Collection. This is they're kind of compacts. They're not as small as the DC compacts, but this is, if you wanted to read, if you never got to read the Old Man Logan story, it is there, all collected in there for you. Thank you. We've got There's No Time Like the Present. This is a new graphic novel from Drawn and Quarterly, and this is all about if you could access the future through the internet, would you right societal wrongs or just download future episodes of your favorite TV show? What would you do if you actually had the power to make change through the internet? We're going to see how many times people do a terrible job. And then this Slavery, this is a graphic novel, also, I believe also from Drawn Quarterly, Self-Made Hero. And this is thrown out of work when the cotton mill burns down. Sisters Rachel and Hester Martin are forced to find new ways to survive. One agitates for reform, striving to free her community from enslavement. The other submits to the slavery of patriarchal marriage. And so what kind of different types of enslavement are there? This is a tale of romance and hope through industrial Lancaster. We've got 8 times my work has been ripped off, an informal self-defense guide for independent creators. This is going to help you kind of talk about how to protect your work. It's part true crime, practical advice from a veteran illustrator telling you what it's like to have your work be destroyed or stolen. Out of Alcatraz got a hardcover out this week. If you didn't get a chance to catch that story about what would have happened if the people who broke out of Alcatraz in the 1960s actually had made it, this is a great way to capture it all in that beautiful hardcover from Christopher Cantwell. Why the Last Man Volume 1 got a compact. So if you're adding to your DC compact collection, this is a great one. It's nice to see that the Vertigo titles are also getting compacts and that we're not just sticking with DC proper. Between this and American Vampire, having those Vertigo titles is great. More to come from Vertigo titles on November 5th in the compacts. If you don't know which one that is, just remember the 5th of November. We've got Bridge Planet 9. This is another graphic novel from Top Shelf. This is about it's a giant space opera kind of story. Hijackers, a small reluctant crew, dark secrets, intense pacing, crazy paranoia, suspenseful sci-fi, which is the best kind of sci-fi in my opinion, is the sci-fi that feels like a horror in space. Pastime is out. What a great way to celebrate the World Series by remembering that vampires love to play baseball too, and not just the sparkly kind. This is all 5 issues of the story that takes place in the 1920s when we started to take baseball from the barnstorming players to under lights and the vampire that really just wanted to be great. And then lastly, Fish Flies is finally in trade paperback form. Woo! Yay! This is a great Jeff Lemire story featuring a character who did win the Batastic Award for Characters I Want to Be Best Friends With. Franny, the most epic, self-sacrificing, great friend you could possibly have. This is all about a small town where a killer man comes in and kind of gets turned into a giant bug, and the only person who can protect him and who believes him and who saves this giant bug is a young girl who feels like nobody sees her or cares about her. The snotty kid in class, Franny Fox, who will always be by your side whenever you need a friend. Franny for life, Team Franny. This book is so great. If you didn't read it, Jeff Lemire loves to play with your heart in the weirdest ways. All right. that's what you got. That's what came out this week. There's obviously a ton more books coming out this week that are going to be great and awesome. I can't wait to see what they are. Don't forget, we have Queer Book Club this Wednesday at 6 p.m. with When I Arrived in the Castle. Thursday at 6:30 p.m. is Creator Meetup. Friday, we are closed for Halloween. Thursday night, I will also be, I should bring this up, I will also be on Near Mint Condition. I will be on the Near Mint podcast again this Thursday night talking about my horror books that I think should always be in print, along with some other great comic fans, as well as Omar from Near Mint. Thank you, Omar, for having me back. Thank you to everybody who requested that I come back for this episode. I can't wait. It's going to be a great way to kick off the Halloween season, or I guess the Halloween Eve, as we talk about horror books. Come talk about books with us all week long, and most importantly, happy reading and happy Halloween, everyone. Good night.